Morning world, it's 8:30 in the morning on Monday the 14th of May 2018. The moon is now in early Taurus, Mercury has moved into Taurus, Uranus is at 29 Aries and Mars is at 29 Capricorn. We're in the middle of a perfect storm astrologically speaking, and yet, looking at the outside world, nothing is happening. I'm on record as saying that if this period doesn't give birth to something truly spectacular, then I'm going to have to do a really big mea culpa, because I've been predicting a lot of changes. But a lot of you have been coming back to me and saying, yeah, I can really feel this energy and I'm not liking it. There's a lot going on at a personal level for people, and I'm absolutely sure that there's going to be events over the next year with Uranus at 0 Taurus that are going to be traced back to this time. Speaking of which, I want to look at the horoscope of the country of Israel. How can you do the horoscope of a country, one asks? Well, there's some countries, like the old countries, Britain and France, for example, where you obviously don't know at the moment when the country came into being. For example, with France, there's been so many different forms of republics. It's from the latest form of republic that the horoscope for France has done. With Britain, it's various horoscopes. The Union of England with Scotland, the Union of England with Ireland and Wales, the dissolution of Ireland, the 1066 chart set for midday in London when William the Conqueror got crowned. There's various charts for the UK. The USA is set for the chart where the Declaration of Independence at 5:10 in the afternoon on the 4th of July 1766. And there's various controversies around all of these charts. And then there's some charts when you know when the country was born. For example, with Australia and the more modern countries when there's actual record of the moment the country came into existence. Such a case is Israel. Around the end of the First World War, Britain assumed responsibility for many of the Middle Eastern lands that was generally called Palestine at that time. There were decades of negotiation then, running through to the end of the Second World War, about the desire for a Jewish state, and Britain, in its infinite wisdom, declared that the state of Israel would come into existence at midnight between the 14th and the 15th of May 1948. The local neighbours of Israel took exception to this, and there was an invasion by at least 3 or 4 separate Arab armies on Israel in the afternoon of 14th of May 1948. As a result, the Israeli in fact this happened 2 days before on the 12th and 13th as well. As a result, the Israeli cabinet, which had been de facto meeting for a couple of months, met in Tel Aviv on the afternoon of the 14th of May, and Ben Gurion, who was the Israeli Prime Minister at the time, banged his gavel on the table at precisely 4 p.m. and said, "I declare the state of Israel." At which point the cabinet burst into applause and sung the new national anthem. And in his diary, he wrote later that the State of Israel came into existence at 4 p.m. that afternoon on the 14th of May 1948. 8 hours later, at midnight local time, the state of Palestine came into existence, as this was the moment when Britain actually handed over independence. So it's slightly different horoscopes for both Palestine and Israel, same day. Now the horoscope of Israel gives Taurus with the moon in Leo and Libra rising. I find it fascinating that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, who is mired in controversy, it never seems to leave him alone. There's obviously something not completely transparent around him and his family and his son. He has Mars at 26 degrees of Leo. Donald Trump has Mars at 27 degrees of Leo. Israel has Mars at 28 degrees of Leo. And with Ivanka Trump going to be in Israel already, readiness to open the American new embassy in Jerusalem tomorrow, it seems that this is a very poignant time to be looking at Israel's horoscope. The nature of Israel's chart, born with the sun opposite Chiron, with the sun in the 7th house of one-to-one personal relationships, Chiron in the 1st house of identity. Like it or not, Israel is going to be measured in the future by the way it gets on or not with its neighbours and with its people around it. One-to-one relationships, the countries bordering Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Egypt, Jordan. Both the Sun and Chiron are weakly square to Mars. No big deal. It is not so much the nature of Israel's chart beyond that Sun opposite Chiron that is a major issue. There's Jupiter opposite Uranus in Israel's chart, which whenever you see a Jupiter-Uranus opposition, there's always a question of faith and philosophy and belief. And a number of people have problems around Israel, and it's not really Israel that the problem is with. It's with the more fundamentalist form of Israeli religion, Zionism. I have a number of Jewish friends and a number of Israeli friends. There's some very good Israeli astrologers. But the Zionists and the hardcore fundamentalists really, well, have fundamentalisms of all type, whether it be Christian, Jehovah's, Zionist, Islamic, Sikh, Hindu. It just really hacks me off. I just don't do fundamentalism. Fundamentalism is the single biggest root of problems in the world today, right up there along with mainstream religions, in my opinion, and the misogyny that goes with it. What's fascinating to me is the current state of play with Israel's horoscope. Jupiter in the sky is just about to, it's standing still. It's in its retrograde phase at the moment, conjuncting Israel's Chiron, and it will pass opposite Israel's Sun later this year. Saturn in the sky is opposite Israel's unaspected Venus, which is not that big a deal. The fascinating one is that on the 27th of July this year, there is a total eclipse of the moon, conjunct retrograde Mars very strongly at 4 degrees of Aquarius. Israel's moon is at 4 degrees of Leo. What this tells me is that with the moon ruling Israel's midheaven in Cancer, that the public image, status, profile, the way it markets, projects, promotes itself into the outside world is going to take a hammering. And I suspect that Israel's going to be involved, shall we say, in a large number of world affairs over the coming 2.5 months. And whilst the chart of Israel itself shows no, what I would call, nastiness, some of the people involved in the Israeli propaganda wars are seemingly quite nasty. So I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of challenges involving Israel over the coming 10 to 12 weeks. I would remind you all that when I did the global forecasts at the start of this year, I did say that May, June, July was going to be really, really crazy. Craziest time for a long, long time. By the time we are collectively into early August, 75% of this is over. And by the time Mars clears its retrograde shadow, which will be by early October, we're clear. So hold your breath, we're still in the storm. Meantime, Uranus is going to move into Taurus tomorrow. Mars is going to move into Aquarius in a couple of days' time. The Mars-Uranus square will be exact on Thursday. By the end of this week, by Friday of this week, we've got a good month or so where we can draw breath before the next wave of eclipses come in July. So, hang in there, world. Buttocks clenched. Catch you tomorrow. Bye.